I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. I don't know what's up there beyond the skies. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movies and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. The change is gonna come. Change gonna come. The change has already come. A change is gonna come. Its power to change is within you. A change is gonna come. The power to change is right now. A change has already come. Just like Dr. Martin Luther King taught us, the power to change is within you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Clark, and I am the Executive Director for the Office of Intercultural Relations here at Old Dominion University. And I welcome you to the 36th Annual Martin Luther King Jr. Observance. Some of you may have recognized that song, which was originally recorded and released by Sam Cooke in 1964 during the Civil Rights Movement. The fight for social justice in America continues today, and we are truly hopeful that a change is gonna come. We would like to give abundant thanks to Corey Staten for opening our program with such a beautiful, powerful, and timely musical selection. Each year, we pay tribute to Dr. King because his legacy is one that continues to inspire generation after generation to dream of and work for a more just and peaceful society. We are honored to be joined by many friends of Old Dominion this evening. To begin our program, it is now my honor to introduce the 8th president of Old Dominion University, John R. Broderick. In the past 2 years, he received the President's Award from the National Association of Student Personnel Administrators and the Community Leaders Award from the Urban League of Hampton Roads. He was also named First Citizen of Hampton Roads by the Chamber of Commerce and 2020 Distinguished 400 Award winner by the federally established 400 Years of African American History Commission. He was appointed to the Norfolk International Airport's Board of Commissioners and also led the Council of Presidents in Virginia and for Conference USA. At the request of students, the Kate and John R. Broderick Dining Commons was named after the President and First Lady for spearheading inclusion initiatives and their commitment to diversity and student success. During his presidency, the university has received over $1 billion in new resources, including the largest gift in its history, a $37 million donation to establish the Barry Art Museum. Most recently, Old Dominion received an additional $29 million from the state to increase the number of graduates as part of the Tech Talent Investment Program. Ladies and gentlemen, President Broderick.
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Tonight we celebrate Dr. King, whose leadership during the Civil Rights era changed the lives of millions of Americans, enabling their pursuit of happiness and the American dream. We are also here to honor men and women who made great sacrifices to create change right here in Norfolk. You will learn more about them during our presentation of the Hugo Owens Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Award later in the program. We are honored to be joined by so many friends of Old Dominion in this virtual celebration tonight. The theme of this evening is A Legacy Honored, a Future of Change. I am proud to say that Old Dominion University is leading the way among higher education institutions in the fight for social justice and equity. 2019 marked the 400th anniversary of the first African landing in North America, right up the road at Point Comfort, now known as Fort Monroe. In September, ODU was the first university in the country to host a Writing a New History event in conjunction with the 400th commemoration, followed by many more such events. In addition, students organized a March for Justice that drew several hundred participants to protest the killing of George Floyd and other African Americans. And now Ted Ellis, artist, educator, and cultural historian, has recently become ODU's scholar in residence for the College of Arts and Letters. Mr. Ellis will engage students in the wider community with fostering conversations on the history of racism and its impact on African Americans. It's now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker and close friend, who's a proud Old Dominion alumnus and trailblazer, the mayor of the City of Norfolk, Kenneth Cooper Alexander. A 1985 graduate of Lake Taylor High School in Norfolk, Kenny Alexander earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Old Dominion. He later received a master's degree in diplomacy from Norwich University and a doctorate in leadership and change from Antioch University. He launched his community service career as president of Berkeley's Beacon Light Civic League and the Beacon Light Community Development Corporation. He later served in the General Assembly for 14 years in both the Senate and the House and was chair of the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus. He has also been vice chair of Norfolk's Planning Commission and a member of the city's Economic Development Authority and Human Services Commission. Since 2016, Kenny has served as mayor of Norfolk. In addition to leading a city of nearly 250,000 people, he is president of Metropolitan Funeral Service, a husband and a father of 2 sons. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to please welcome Mayor Kenneth Cooper Alexander.
In the years since we last celebrated the life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, it seems that we have experienced the most turbulent year in America's history since 1968. But all of us here today have thus far survived the most lethal pandemic since the 1900s, the 1918 Spanish flu. We are enduring the worst global economic crisis since the 1930s, and we are building new coalitions in the struggle against racism. We are also proving resilient to the forces of chaos and intolerance that are working to dismantle the foundations of our democracy. In 1814, British forces burnt the US Capitol. It has been 206 years since that last attack on our nation's symbol of representative democracy and the beacon of hope for developing democracies around the world. The failure of some leaders to protect this critical symbol of democracy, the US Congress, its members and staff, and their unwillingness to hold the President of the United States accountable and to challenge his behavior is troublesome for our country. This stunning lack of courage in the face of an attack on our first branch of government undermines the separation of powers. Courage is an important aspect of governance, command and control of any organization, and this act of cowardice is shameful and disgraceful. But I have hope that through this period of contention and good and brave people will ultimately prevail and democratic order will continue. During this time of immense social, political, and economic change, it is critical that we look towards the triumphs of the courageous people who blazed the trails we now follow. They understood that without struggle, there would be no progress because of their vigilance. We enjoy rights that were promised to all but violently denied to many for hundreds of years after the founding of our nation. Dr. Hugo Owens, Sr., who shares the title of this event and was raised in Norfolk County, filed lawsuits as early as 1950 to integrate parks in Portsmouth after he and his daughter were run off by a groundskeeper. He then worked to integrate public libraries and was among the dentists and doctors that desegregated Portsmouth General Hospital. He not only served as one of the first African Americans on the Chesapeake City Council, he also joined me in the struggle to provide financial services to the underserved neighborhoods with the creation of the Norfolk Portsmouth Chesapeake Federal Development Credit Union. His struggle ushered in progress. In 1958, in the wake of the Supreme Court's decision to desegregate public schools in Brown versus Board of Education, then Virginia Governor Owens ordered Norfolk's 6 all-white high schools and junior high schools closed, rather than to comply with a federal court order to enroll 17 African-American students as part of desegregation. The pro-segregation Norfolk City Council scheduled an advisory referendum on the question of whether the city should ask the governor to reopen the schools. The referendum failed. Of the 21,052 voters that participated in the referendum, at most 3,700 were African Americans. But for a federal court order, the group of students that history will remember as the Norfolk 17 would have never pioneered the integration of Norfolk's public schools. Those 17 students were deployed on the front lines in our struggle against massive resistance. They did not arrive to a school that welcomed them. Their teachers didn't nurture their talents, and their fellow students bullied them. The Norfolk 17 described their experience as pure hell. But they persisted and eventually graduated. Several members of the Norfolk 17 earned Ph.D s. Our schools were integrated because of their struggle. Evelyn Thomas Butts, a low-income African-American seamstress of Norfolk, Virginia, learned about the power of voting and voter suppression during the struggles of the Norfolk 17 and massive resistance to public school integration. The low voter participation among African Americans was the direct result of Virginia's voter suppression schemes, including a poll tax. Ms. Butts, who was just emerging as a grassroots civil rights leader, was among those who recognized that the referendum results amounted to more evidence that the lives of African Americans did not matter to the white supremacist elites who ran Virginia. Without voting strength, Butts recognized that African Americans could not achieve the full stature of citizenship, which included personal, social, political, and economic freedoms, and that Black communities had little voice in determining their own destiny or path of their own lives and ambitions. We were powerless until her struggle to end Virginia's poll tax. Ms. Butts' realizations about civil rights and self-determination heightened her dedication to the voting rights struggle, a cause for which she would become locally renowned through her voter participation initiatives and her landmark victory against the poll tax at the U.S. Supreme Court in 1966. We can learn much from her fierce resolve on a range of social justice issues as well as the struggle for Black self-determination, equal citizenship, and especially voting rights and voter engagement. While specific details have changed from Evelyn Butt's era to ours, the fundamental causes of fairness and democratic participation have largely remained the same. Because of the moral and ethical dimensions of politics and public policy, we have to make use of the work and lessons of the civil rights movement in addressing public issues today to ensure that government works in the public interest and for the common good on issues in the public domain for the well-being of all persons. We should remind ourselves and remain inspired by those in the struggle to continue the ethical and moral approach to addressing social justice issues and social welfare issues and poverty and racism, unemployment and homelessness and violence and other pressing issues to create a beloved community. Dr. King was in touch with the poor. His ministry connected directly with grassroots movements and with the African American community. He was a force in the community, and he was brought to tears when those in the community told him of their stories of impoverishments and social neglect. Dr. King was so committed to the total liberation of all oppressed people that he sacrificed his own personal hopes and dreams and aspirations as he devoted his entire life to the achievement of freedom for everyone. Dr. King believed that we should address public issues such as justice and freedom and human rights in the public arena. Dr. King was frustrated with those who remained silent in the face of the evils of injustice and oppression and dehumanization. Dr. King stood on the side of the oppressed, the meek, the poor, the marginalized, the excluded, those at the bottom of the barrel, who often became society's scapegoat. Dr. King believed that all persons have the absolute right to dignity, worth, and justice and righteousness, for every person is sacred. Everybody is somebody because everybody is born of hope and promise and endowed with natural rights. Dr. King's compassion moved him to minister to both the spiritual and practical needs of people. He had a profound respect for the law, and he was renowned for preaching compassion, forgiveness, and love. He was a leader of a civil rights movement that was an elegant tapestry of theology and politics, and a way more complex and effective than today's crude intersection of religion and politics, which is practiced by too many. Recently, there have been protesters that have invoked God and Christ in their protests. But it is God's desire that justice be done in the world, a justice that brings joy and not terror to the righteous. Dr. King understood that our political life must be governed by something larger than politics, or we are lost. So, beloved, we should not hesitate to obey, respect, collaborate, participate, and submit to laws that are for the common good. Finally, I encourage you, this generation, to serve as the conscience of our government and to be vigilant and hopeful when following the trail blazed by those who have come before us. Appreciate the struggle. Know that without struggle, there's no progress. So let us continue in our faith until justice roll down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. Continue the struggle.
Thank you, Mayor Alexander, for being with us today and sharing those inspiring remarks. In honor of Dr. Hugo Owens, the university in 2009 renamed its annual Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Award the Hugo Owens Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Award. Dr. Hugo Owens served on the university's Board of Visitors from 1990 to 1994 and was the board's first African American rector. He was well known throughout the Hampton Roads for his civil rights activism and community leadership. Old Dominion bestows this award on those who have demonstrated a genuine concern for their fellow citizens and a commitment to Dr. King's principles of peace and equality. Recipients must have demonstrated leadership, dedication, and persistence over a period of time. It is my honor to invite Hugo Owens Jr., son of the late Dr. Hugo Owens, to present the award.
Tonight, we recognize the Norfolk 17, a group of individuals who bravely challenged the course of public education in our region over 60 years ago. 5 years after the landmark 1954 Supreme Court case, Brown versus Topeka, Kansas Board of Education, the justices ruled unanimously that racial segregation of children in public schools was unconstitutional. After legal challenges to the obstacle called massive resistance in Virginia, 17 courageous young men and women were admitted to all-white schools on February 2nd, 1959. Members of the Norfolk 17 recounted harrowing experiences of their first day and tension that followed. They faced continuous threats of physical violence, verbal abuse, destruction of their property. Despite enormous pressure placed on these youths, they remained steadfast in their conviction that they deserved an equal education. All of the members of the Norfolk 17 graduated from high school. Many went on to pursue advanced degrees, become educators, serve in the armed forces, and write books recounting their experiences. I will now read the names of each of the members of the Norfolk 17. Some of these men and women passed on, but their legacy will endure forever. Lewis Cousins, Olivia Driver Lindsay, Lavera Forbes Brown, Patricia Godbolt White, Alvarez Frederick Gonsoland, Andrew Heidelberg, Dolores Johnson Brown, Edward Jordan, Lolita Portis, Betty Jean Reed, Johnny Rouse, Geraldine Talley, James Turner Jr., Patricia Turner, Carol Wellington, Claudia Wellington, Reginald Young. Tonight, we are honored to award the members of the Norfolk 17 with the Hugo Owens Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Award for their heroism.
We now invite Dr. Patricia Turner, a member of the group, to accept this award on their behalf.
Hello, everyone. Oh, it is truly an honor to accept this award, the Hugo Owens Martin Luther King Award. I am just filled with joy and happiness. I will be accepting for all of the 17. Our deceased members, we've lost so many, and it seems so quickly, but we have gone through a lot. We were walking to school. That was all we wanted to do. And now, thank God, we can look back and say thank you, God, again, for carrying us, for holding us, for just leaving us here so that we can see the changes that we made. Please don't look at the world in a negative way. Even though we have so much going on today, this virus has taken a toll on everyone, but there are still wonderful things going on. So in honor of the Norfolk 17, with very, very happy hearts, I say thank you again.
Before we conclude the program, we have a special announcement from the Old Dominion University Student Government Association, better known as SGA. Please welcome Miles Nixon, SGA Director of Legislative Affairs and Diversity.
It is an extreme honor to present the Norfolk 17 with the gift on behalf of Old Dominion Student Government Association, the Institute for the Study of Race and Ethnicity, the MLK Observance Committee, and the Office of Housing and Residence Life. The Norfolk 17 are local pioneers of diversity and inclusion. Without your bravery and perseverance during a time when our country was far less racially tolerant, I would not be in the position I'm in today as Old Dominion University's Student Government 90th Session Director of Legislative Affairs and Diversity. There are no words to express the gratitude that I have towards you all for laying the foundation and uplifting young African American students like me. To ensure that your legacy and impact on Old Dominion University's campus is forever remembered, we will be placing this iconic photo of the Norfolk 17 inside of Owens House once the building is opened. Owens House is the new dormitory named for Dr. Hugo Owens Sr., civil rights icon and ODU's first African American rector. Again, we appreciate you for all the hardship you endured. Thank you so much, Norfolk 17.
We would like to thank tonight's speakers for their participation. We would also like to acknowledge the work of Cecilia Tucker, Assistant to the President for Community Relations, and the members of the Martin Luther King Jr. Observance Committee, the Offices of Community Engagement and Strategic Communication and Marketing, University Archivist Steve Bookman, and Video Production and Broadcast Services. We invite you to join us for additional opportunities to learn more about this historic moment. During Black History Month, visit a special exhibition featuring the Norfolk 17 at the Learning Commons in Perry Library. And join us on February 17th for our virtual program entitled Continuity and Change, Norfolk 17 Revisited. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful and safe evening.